They're digging around my house like I'm some kind of prisoner. No joke. That's exactly what I screamed the morning I woke up and saw massive backhoes digging an 8-foot trench all the way around my property. Imagine looking out your kitchen window and realizing you're trapped in your own home, concrete barriers, construction equipment everywhere, and a security team like they're guarding Fort Knox. I wish I was making this up. My HOA president, Susan, had finally lost her mind. She was trying to steal my family's ranch, and this was her most insane move yet. I couldn't get out, couldn't get supplies, couldn't even call for help with my landlines cut, alone against what felt like an army, and I was supposed to just give up. Not a chance. What would you do if someone literally tried to imprison you on your own land? That's where I was. Name's Charles Martin. 42. Mechanic downtown, but this 12-acre ranch, that's my family's soul. My granddad bought this place in the 50s, back when it was nothing but fields and old-fashioned stubbornness. Dad built the workshop where I spend half my life. Now it's my turn to keep it safe. Some mornings I stand there holding my granddad's tools, wondering if I'm really strong enough to protect everything 3 generations have built with sweat and grit. The house isn't much, but it's got bones. The shop. It's Dad's legacy. You can fix anything in there, from tractors to classic Chevys. Smells like motor oil and old dreams. Lately, we'd had a few break-ins, so I was already thinking about a security upgrade. My neighbor Sam, retired county inspector, kept nagging me to document everything. You need proof, he'd say. I thought he meant burglars, but maybe he saw something coming that I didn't. I just decided to put up new cameras and motion sensors when the letter arrived, professional, expensive paper. That whole "I'm a very important person" vibe. From Susan Hernandez, attorney at law, HOA president, and apparently local villain. 450 grand for 12 acres. Immediate closing preferred. Yeah, right. I'm no real estate genius, but my gut told me I was about to get played. I started looking up properties nearby. 800,000, a million. Even the bad lots were worth double her offer. Either Susan was bad at math or she thought I was the dumbest man in the county. That's when I realized this wasn't a regular offer. Susan was famous for buying up distressed land cheap. Her whole website bragged about it. I'd heard the stories. Families suddenly forced to sell after mysterious violations or community concerns. But I never thought she'd come after my family. What kind of person tries to steal a place a grandfather built with his own hands? This was bigger than my house. This was about protecting my father's hard work and my family's future. So I decided no sale. Not for 450, not for $1 million, not ever. This land was family written in dirt and sweat. I called the county office to check on zoning and values. Too late, closed till morning. That's when the first warning sign appeared on my security feed. Someone late at night walking toward my mailbox, something in their hand. Heart pounding, I watched as they left a package and disappeared into the dark. Next morning, I found it a surveyor's pin bent in a bag. Note taped on, "Check your boundaries carefully." I'd lived here my whole life. I knew every inch of these 12 acres. But that little message, it chilled me right to the bone. Sam Bradley saw it too. Coffee in hand, face gone pale. "Charles, this changes everything," he whispered, and I knew it was bad. Then a text from an unknown number, a photo of my house timestamped 3 hours earlier, taken from my backyard. Someone had been walking around while I slept. That was the real twist. This was never about money. This was about violating a sanctuary. My family's name was on this dirt. And suddenly I was up against someone who didn't care about anything but her bottom line. Sam and I started digging, literally and figuratively. We found new survey gear by the tree line gear that hadn't been there before. My phone kept buzzing, another picture, fresh stakes along my fence. Someone was rewriting my boundaries for me, and they weren't being subtle. Tuesday morning, the circus arrived. 3 county vehicles, Susan at the front in her perfect suit, flanked by a parade of clipboard-carrying officials, inspector, assessor, safety coordinator. They didn't even pretend. Tablets out, poking through my septic, my electrical, my shop. By noon, they'd discovered violations that had apparently make my home a danger to civilization. Suddenly, everything was condemned. Funny how it all happened the day after I refused to sell. Here's the kicker. All the emergency permits that let Susan's team do this backdated, signed by a retired engineer who we later found out lived in Florida. It was all fake, designed to skip every normal check and put me on the defensive. And the county folks just following protocol, none the wiser. I called the sheriff, Deputy Morgan. A straight shooter showed up fast. I laid out Susan's offer, showed him the sudden emergencies. He wanted to help, but the paperwork looked real. He couldn't interfere. But I saw the doubt in his eyes, even the way Susan smiled. You're more resilient than the demographics suggest gave her away. I wasn't just another old-timer rolling over. By the time they left, my property was a mess of flags and violation notices, and I was officially stuck in a bureaucratic nightmare. I did what desperate people do, called the media, hired a lawyer. My ally lawyer, Michael Reeves, seemed like he got it laid out a plan, told me Susan wasn't untouchable. For a minute, I actually felt hopeful. Except the next day, the blogger who promised to expose Susan dropped an article calling me the problem, parroting Susan's fake story about community safety. I got sold out faster than you can say election season. That night, I doubled down on security cameras everywhere, audio recorders hidden at every fence post. Sam and I documented every footprint, every new marker, every suspicious vehicle. Friday, the real siege began. Construction crews, heavy equipment, orange spray paint marking the whole property. Cameras caught crews setting up under cover of darkness, headlights making my yard look like a crime scene. The next morning, they started digging deep trenches like they were laying siege to a castle. Susan watched from her SUV, radio in hand, acting like a general. No way out. I tried to build a bridge across the trench, lasted about 30 seconds before I crashed into the mud. I'd have laughed if the crew hadn't been standing there pointing and laughing. I called the cops, of course. Officer Miller showed up, took one look and said, "Ma'am, this seems excessive." But Susan had paperwork for everything. The law couldn't help me. Not yet. The next twist, one of the construction guys, a kid barely out of trade school, pulled me aside. They're paying us double overtime to finish by Sunday. But this isn't flood control. Looks like they're trying to keep you in, not water out. Even he knew something was wrong. Susan wasn't done. She cut my power, my water, my internet. I had to haul water from Sam's house, climb over concrete, carry groceries on foot. She even started spreading rumors about me, said I was running a drug operation out here, told the neighbors to watch their kids. The new folks believed her, but the old-timers, the ones who remembered my granddad, stuck by me. Sam was my voice when I couldn't leave the yard. I documented everything. By Sunday, Susan's crews finished sealing off the property. Concrete barriers at every entry, unmarked vans at 3 a.m. It was psychological warfare. Now she wanted me broken, desperate. But an anonymous text landed on my phone. Don't panic. Keep recording. The truth comes out. No idea who sent it, but I held on to that hope. Monday morning, my phone finally worked again. I started uploading video showing the world what Susan had done. People online went nuts. Half thought I was crazy. Half saw the truth. But it was enough to get the news interested. A real crew came, but Susan blocked them at the HOA gate. That only made things bigger. Now it was regional news. And just when I thought I'd lost everyone, I overheard my own lawyer, Michael Reeves, on the phone with Susan. The isolation strategy is working perfectly. He trusts everything I tell him. The guy I'd hired to save me was feeding Susan every detail, every move. I recorded it. The system wasn't broken. It was working exactly how people like Susan designed it to. But I wasn't alone. Deputy Morgan showed up with a stack of evidence. He'd been quietly building a case. Permits, forged signatures, faked money-changing hands. Turns out Susan's company owed millions to private investors. She needed my property as collateral before her deadline hit. Her whole emergency was about saving herself from bankruptcy. Morgan's investigation found that Susan had forged a retired engineer's credentials for the fake permits, bribed officials, and tricked even her own construction crews. They'd been documenting everything for liability, so their time logs and GPS stamps became evidence. The final showdown came at a packed community meeting. Susan strutted in fake state inspector in tow, ready to close the deal. But I took the floor, plugged in my laptop, and showed the room everything: videos of her moving boundary markers, audio of her bribing officials, documents tracing the fraud. Sam, my neighbor, stood up and revealed he was actually an undercover investigator for the Attorney General's office. He'd been documenting Susan's operation for months. The look on her face watching her criminal world collapse on live stream was a thing of beauty. Morgan arrested her right there. Her fake inspector, too. The construction crew volunteered evidence. The HOA treasurer exposed the embezzled funds. And the community finally saw who'd been robbing them blind. Within hours, Susan was suspended, then disbarred, her assets seized. My property worth nearly $3 million. After a rezoning announcement, she'd tried to cheat me out of everything and instead lost it all. A week later, the county came out, filled in the trenches, restored my water power, my freedom, my grandfather's legacy. Safe. And Susan Hernandez. She went from queen of the neighborhood to a cautionary tale taught in law schools. You want to know what justice feels like? It's watching the person who tried to ruin your family's future be marched out in cuffs, while your neighbors line up to shake your hand and say, "Welcome home." But let me ask you this. How many people out there never get the chance to fight back? How many families lose everything to folks who abuse the system? Comment below. Where's the line between protection and corruption? Ever had a neighbor try to steamroll your rights? Let's hear your stories. If you made it this far, like and share, because one person standing up can change everything, and you never know when the system might finally work the way it's supposed to.